everyone, I'm Luke Hector and you're watching The Broken Meeple. This is a YouTube channel about board games where I give reviews, top 10s and my honest opinions, regardless of the consequences.
Get on with it.
So in today's quick draw review, we're talking about Walking in Burano, specifically the new roll and write version. So for those of you not aware of what Walking in Burano is, Emperor S4 basically put out this little card game a few years back. I gave it a 9 out of 10. I think this is a great, excellent game. I mean, probably an 8 out of 10 at this point, but still, I think a solid game that you should get if you're into Emperor S4 games. It essentially had you building houses of these different colors with all these little things like lampposts and cats and blinds and various other things like shop windows and customers and that all over them. And you basically had specific restrictions on how you could draft these cards from a tableau in the middle, but you were trying to build up your 5 houses in such a way that you could score using these character cards for various objects, like, you know, one character wants all the cats, one character wants loads of different flowers, one character looks at an entire row and says how many chimneys have you got, that kind of thing. But the idea that you also were trying to build a house that had the matching color all the way down added a nice little bit of extra depth. Solid game, and it's still in my collection. So when I heard that they were going to do a roll and write version, I was kind of in two minds. Firstly, this game is definitely one that, you know, takes a little bit of time to set up and isn't the shortest game ever. But I figured, well, okay then, a shorter version could be cool. But when I looked at the differences between this and this one, I was like, I'm not sure if I like those differences. You know, they've taken out some aspects that the card game has that I think would have suited this one as well. But, you know, let's try and review this one in a little bit of a vacuum for the moment. So the roll and write version essentially has the same kind of setup. You are building, except you don't build the houses this time, you're still trying to collect all those different icons like cats and lampposts, etc., and use character cards to score for them. The main sort of key difference here though is that you basically have 2 dice holders, which, to be fair, give them credit for ingenuity. These are in the box assembled like this. You essentially have them on the table like that. I didn't assemble these, I didn't have to fold them or punch them out. This is how they come in the box. It's essentially the insert. I've got to give credit when they use some ingenuity like this. But essentially, these will be rolled and they will have the different color dice, and these will have different numbers on them. The idea being that everybody has a couple of boats, which they essentially use to pick which ones they're going to use. And what you have is a pad that has all the houses already pre-built, but they've got different arrangements of all the various icons. And the idea is that there are certain rules for how you can use these icons, most of which are on nice reference on your other sheet, which is basically your money and points tracker. But it is also cool to have a reminder of, oh, I see, if it's on the second, for cats, let's see, I need 1 and 2 does the first floor cat, 3 and 4 does the second floor cat, and 5 and 6 does the third floor cat, and stuff like this. So this is a very nice little reference aid. But the idea is that you will use one of your boats, you will pick one of the dice you want to use, and based on your pad and what it is you're collecting, you'll write the number by the icon that you're using and circle around it to say you've got it. And then as you circle around certain icons, you'll collect coins. These coins can be used to augment the value of the dice, but the primary reason you want them is you spend 3 at a time to grab a character card. The characters are on the bottom of your pad, and so these characters, much like the card game, score you points in various ways to do with the icons, whether by column or by row. You're trying to find the characters that will score the best for you based on what you've been doing. The only slight bit of interaction in the game is that you have 2 boats, and if you go to a boat where someone else is, you effectively both get a coin. You get a coin, they get a coin. But that's kind of it. Other than that, the interaction in this game is basically non-existent, and that's kind of all the rules really. You play until you get to 5 characters, and then the game ends, and then you total up all the points based on the characters you've done. And preferably you want to have all the characters in your house filled, because not having a certain character is going to be a massive drop in points. But for the most part, this replicates the feeling of Walking in Burano, but there are some key differences. Firstly, the dice, obviously you were using cards back then. So your ability to utilize certain icons on here is going to be dictated by the values of the dice. But the interaction is also dialed down a bit, because in the other game, you didn't necessarily interact with other players to a great deal, but you could see what the buildings other players were building. You could see whether they needed certain colors or certain icons, and so the way they took cards from the center tableau certainly influenced what you were going to do. Here, all you do is put your boat next to them and get a coin. That's it. And even then, it's not like in games where you go, right, well, if I go to the one you're at, I suffer, you get a benefit. No, you both get something cool. Granted, you don't want to give the one who's clearly winning all the money, but then if I get money as well, then I'm kind of benefiting as well, so why do I really care that much if I do share a die with you? It's not the end of the world. And with that being said, I also miss the fact that you actually don't have to build the houses this time. Here, the houses are pre-built and they're already arranged in their 5 colours. In the card game, you had to work to make certain the houses were those right colours, and I miss that from the card game. The card game was elevated because of that. It was an extra level of depth, and you were trying to think, oh, I really want those flowers in that, but it's red. I don't want it red. Oh, there's a green one over there. It doesn't have the flowers on it, but you know what? It's green. I'll take it. Don't you dare take it before me, though. That kind of angst and depth is lost here. This is definitely a simplified version. Now, you can play this solo with some rules in the back. They're pretty much identical to multiplayer, except that the spectator has 2 boats, and you have to effectively pay a coin to the bank in order to visit a place where their boat is. So ideally, you're trying to visit different places. But there's also a timer where the money track on here ticks down as time goes on, and the game will end when you basically cross off enough coins so that the 2 meet. So you're kind of under a timer to get as much done as you can and score as many points, and then it's just simply beat your own score. Would have liked that there was something a little bit better than just beat your own score, but it's relatively quick, it's good fun, and it is an alternate way to play this game. Is it the only way you should play it? Yes and no. I mean, the interaction in this game is so minimal that there isn't really a major need to go to, I believe it's the 4-player count here. But the game doesn't take that long with 4 players. 4 players might be pushing it a little bit, but 1, 2 or 3 players, the game's relatively quick. The box claims 30 minutes, and that's about as long as it should take to play this. But is the gameplay fun enough? Yes, but it's hard to think of this one in a vacuum when the card game exists, because if I try and ignore this entirely, let's put this over here for a minute. The game itself is fine. It's nothing stellar. There are roll and writes that have done more twists or more engaging stuff than this one, because this one is basically just choose a die, mark it on your sheet, try and get some characters, and Bob's your uncle. It's simple, it's cute. People go, oh, with all the little kitties and all the flowers, and weird the fact that Santa Claus is in this Italian city effectively going down chimneys, but that's the way it is. And the dice are cool and it's produced fine, but it's essentially a cheap roll and write that will do the job. But that's kind of all it is doing. It's doing the job and not really elevating the genre. It's not bringing anything new. It just is a pleasing game, but not one that I can say, oh, this is a must-buy for roll and write lovers. And the other thing is that if I don't treat it in a vacuum, and I remember that this exists, if you asked me which of the 2 would I say go out and get, I would say go out and get the original, because I still think that the card game is a better version than this one. This one quotes on the box 20 to 40 minutes. That's pushing it a bit. I mean, you're probably looking at about an hour for this. So yes, it will take twice as long to play as this one, but you'll get that much more depth in this one than you will in this one. Not to say that this one is a bad game, it certainly isn't, but it doesn't measure up to the greatness that the first one is. And if you ignore this one entirely, it's an okay roll and write, above average, but nothing special. There are roll and writes that I have played recently that I think give me more engagement than this one does. This one's a nice quick one to just sort of chuck out if you're bored, and it's a it's a small box, it won't take up much room in your travel bag, and the dice, everything that you need is in the back. So as a travel item, it's pretty good and it does the job, but again, still prefer this one. So it's kind of weird. I'm giving this one overall a 6 out of 10. It's above average, and it's still, there you go, a decent roll and write. But because it doesn't really bring anything new, I can't really recommend it over certain other roll and writes that I've played recently that I think do a better job. But I can't say that this is bad either, because it plays well, the rules are very easy to understand, the reference cards are good, it's well produced. You probably will want to laminate some of these pads though, because this is all you get in the backs and there's not a huge amount in there. So if you're playing this with a lot of players a lot, you're going to run out of these pretty quickly. So you might want to laminate some of these early to be on the safe side. It's cute, it's charming, but that's kind of all it is. It's another roll and write, it's a functional roll and write, it's a pleasing roll and write, it's just nothing that new. I'd say grab the original card game if you can find it. I reckon you'll get more enjoyment out of this one. This one you'll get some enjoyment, but just not as much. So that's it for me on this episode of The Broken Meeple. If you like what you see, then please thumb it up on YouTube, but also thumb it up on Board Game Geek when it goes live on the videos page. If you like what you see, then by all means check out the rest of my UK Games Expo review content, where I've just been chucking out review after review recently because I've had so many games from the Expo to review, more than in any other year so far, and hopefully you've been enjoying those as well. I'd also like to get your comments down below. Do you really enjoy this game? Do you prefer it to the card game, or do you prefer the card game to the dice game? That I'd be interested to know for those of you who have played both. But until next time, remember, as always, regardless of however many cute little kitty cats you want scraping all over your buildings, it's still only a game. Bye for now.